Papal names aren't just ceremonial, they're spiritual signals, legacy markers, and sometimes bold declarations of war or peace. When a new pope is elected, one of his first decisions is choosing a name. And that name? It speaks volumes before he even says a word. For centuries, popes have chosen names to align with saints, honor predecessors, or distance themselves from turbulent legacies. It's a branding move wrapped in holiness. Now imagine the moment Pope Leo XIV emerged onto the balcony. His first public act wasn't a speech or a decree, but a name. And not just any name, Leo, a title buried for more than 100 years, revived with surgical precision. Why Leo? Why now? The last Leo helped shape the Church's stance on labor rights. The first Leo confronted invaders with faith alone. To understand Pope Leo XIV's choice, we have to understand what he was trying to say without ever saying it out loud. Choosing a papal name isn't just about reverence, it's a minefield. Every name carries weight. Some are soaked in history, others haunted by scandal. And once chosen, there's no turning back. That single decision sends a message to over 1 billion Catholics in the entire world about what kind of leader this new pope intends to be. Take John Paul I, who combined 2 names to honor his predecessors, but died just 33 days into his papacy, igniting decades of speculation. Or Pope Francis, the first ever to choose that name, signaling a radical shift toward humility, simplicity, and social justice. In one word, he rebranded the entire Church. The problem? Every name is a loaded gun. Use it right, and it becomes a beacon. Use it wrong, and it becomes a curse. Some names are avoided altogether. No pope has ever dared take the name Peter II out of reverence and fear. Now imagine stepping into the papacy during turbulent times. Sexual abuse scandals, global polarization, declining faith. Every choice is political, every move theological. And Pope Leo XIV? He didn't play it safe. He reached into the past and revived a name that roared with history, knowing full well the risks. To understand why Pope Leo XIV chose a name from the distant past, we have to look at the man behind the title and the moment in which he rose. Born Giovanni Battista Leone, he was never destined for the papacy. Raised in a modest family in northern Italy, he was a quiet academic with a sharp intellect and a deep admiration for church history. He earned his doctorate in theology with a dissertation on papal diplomacy in the 19th century. But what set him apart wasn't just his knowledge, it was his obsession with legacy. Specifically, the legacies of 2 men, Leo I and Leo XIII. Leo I, also known as Leo the Great, reigned in the 5th century. He faced off against Attila the Hun, not with armies, but with words. In one of the most legendary encounters in papal history, Leo met Attila at the gates of Rome and persuaded him to turn back. He was a pope who led not just with prayer, but with spine. Leo I defended doctrine, stabilized the church, and is still remembered as one of the greatest theologians of the early Christian era. For Leo XIV, this wasn't just inspiring, it was instructive. Fast forward to Leo XIII, the intellectual giant of the 19th century. He authored the groundbreaking encyclical Rerum Novarum, which laid the foundation for Catholic social teaching. He spoke directly to the working class during the rise of industrial capitalism and was one of the first popes to actively engage with the modern world. He embraced science, encouraged education, and rebuilt bridges between the church and a rapidly changing society. Leo XIII brought relevance to the papacy again, and did so without compromising on doctrine. Now picture the context Pope Leo XIV was walking into, a church fractured by scandal, division, and a widening gap between doctrine and daily life. Faith in the institution was plummeting. Traditionalists were clashing with reformists. Young Catholics were walking away in record numbers. Meanwhile, the world was becoming increasingly secular, digital, and deeply polarized. The church was being asked questions it wasn't prepared to answer about gender, power, modern ethics, and transparency. Giovanni Battista Leone knew exactly what he was doing. By choosing Leo, he tied himself to strength, doctrine, diplomacy, and daring. He wasn't going to be just a spiritual leader. He was signaling that he would be a pope of action, a pope who remembered what power looked like when wielded with humility and purpose. But there was also something deeply personal. His middle name, Leone, was passed down from his grandfather, a man who had resisted fascist forces during World War II. To Pope Leo XIV, the name wasn't just historical, it was familial. It was a tribute to the men who fought, taught, and led not with violence, but with voice. And that voice, he believed, had gone too quiet in recent years. Behind closed doors, cardinals reported that when he announced his papal name, the room fell silent. Not in confusion, but in awe. No one had used that name since 1903. The message was clear. This would not be business as usual. The church would no longer whisper, it would roar again. By reviving Leo, he wasn't just stepping into the shoes of giants. He was declaring that the church must once again be a roaring voice in a chaotic world. One that doesn't retreat, but engages. That doesn't fear dialogue, but demands it. And above all, one that leads with courage. The moment Pope Leo XIV revealed his name wasn't just symbolic, it was a calculated masterstroke. Inside the Sistine Chapel, after the final vote had confirmed his election, the room hushed as he leaned toward the Cardinal Dean and whispered, Leo. A name no one had dared utter since 1903. For a split second, there was confusion, then recognition, then tension. Cardinals exchanged glances, not in disapproval, but in awe. They knew exactly what this meant. By choosing Leo, he wasn't reaching for popularity, he was invoking power. He had tied himself to centuries of spiritual muscle. He wasn't just stepping into the shoes of tradition, he was dragging that tradition into the glare of the 21st century. And outside, when the name echoed across St. Peter's Square, the reaction was instant. Gasps, cheers, silence. Historians knew, scholars knew, even casual Catholics could feel it. Something was different. In an age of compromise and caution, Leo XIV did something rare. He chose clarity, he chose boldness, he chose to roar. And in that exact instant, the world saw not just a man in white, but a leader ready to bring the past crashing into the future. Pope Leo XIV didn't just choose a name, he chose a statement. In reviving Leo, he reached back to the roots of papal strength. Leo I's defiance in the face of invaders, Leo XIII's intellectual and social revolution, and his own family legacy of resistance and reform. It was a calculated return to a time when the papacy wasn't just symbolic, it was seismic. His choice came at a time when the church was fighting to remain relevant, respected, and spiritually authentic in a fast-changing world. With scandals, global criticism, and internal division threatening its voice, Leo XIV's name served as both a challenge and a promise. To be bold, to be unafraid, and to lead not from the sidelines, but from the front. It's rare that a single word, a name, can hold so much weight. But that's the power of history. That's the power of legacy. And that's the power Pope Leo XIV understood when he chose to roar instead of whisper. In a world full of noise, his name was a signal. And for many, it's one that still echoes with possibility. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think names still hold power? And what message do you think Pope Leo XIV was trying to send with his choice? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into church history and symbolism, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed. There's another video in this series where we explore the most controversial papal names of all time. And trust me, some of them nearly split the church in two. Click over to watch it now. You won't believe what happened.